So if I had to take a poll on the nicest currently available air rifle, what might be on your list? Welcome back to Canic Air. What I have here today is a brand new in the box Viroc HW30S, which is a rifle that's been around for quite a number of years. And this one is brand new in the package. Let's get it out of here. Let's get a better look at it. Plastic stuck on the front sight there. There we go. Okay. Let's get the box out of the way. The box has our lovely instruction manual. So at first look, we can tell the HW30S is a smallish air rifle. It's definitely more petite, short, but the length of pull on it actually isn't all that bad, as I've discovered. It's from trigger to buttstock. It's actually fairly adult size. So this is no kid's rifle, which makes sense because it doesn't come with a kid's price. But is this the nicest air rifle on the market today? It could be a contender for that title, I think. This is the smooth plain stock version of the gun. They do make one with checkering and some sort of a more scooped out rear end of the stock here. Not sure if I entirely care for that, but this is nice too. There's also a laminate version, I think at extra cost, and there's a synthetic version which doesn't really interest me. So, but what makes this such a nice air rifle? Well, it's very traditionally made. There's no plastic visible anywhere except maybe this little spacer between the rubber and the wood. That's, yeah, definitely that plastic. There you go. But yeah, trigger guard's metal, trigger's metal. The rear sight assembly, all metal. Front sight, metal piece. Even this piece that screws in is metal. Yeah, very nicely made. What they do tell us about these guns is they have a very smooth cocking cycle. Breaks open easy. It doesn't have the traditional Viroc thumb latch here. Oh yeah, that is... Gosh, that's gorgeous. Yeah, that's lovely. The trigger is the prestigious Record trigger. It does have an automatic safety on it. So when you... But you can uncock it, I believe. You just simply take the safety off and then just pull the trigger while holding. Oh yeah, okay. While holding the barrel. And there you go. I checked the instruction manual earlier. That isn't in there. They don't recommend uncocking it, obviously, but I think they talk about putting a pellet in and shooting into a backstop. So, but this gun, I say, brand new in the box, a recent purchase, but the serial number, looked it up. If the database is correct, this gun was made in 2017, which makes it 7 or 8 years old. So it's been sitting in stock in inventory somewhere. Gun shop said they sell them as quickly as they can get them, so they don't hang around. So hard to say what's going on there. So it also means that all the lubricants and everything that have been put into it at the factory have been sitting dormant for 7 or 8 years. So I think the thing to do here is to follow Nick's advice from Tin Bum Tuning and strip it all down, clean all the old lubricants out, and replace them with fresh stuff. That seems to be a smart thing to do. But he also advises shooting across a chronograph first, so you know your baseline, and then you know if you've done anything right or wrong after that. So that's definitely something to consider. This gun will take a scope, dovetail to course, and there's 2 stops for some sort of a scope stop. If you've got mounts that have a little pin in them, it'll stop it from sliding back on you. Not a super powerful gun. It's not a Magnum Springer by any means. That title of nicest air gun would come from not being the most powerful gun, not being the most expensive gun, maybe not being the most accurate gun, because I'm sure even Viroc would argue they've got more accurate guns than this. But boy, it is a nice product for sure. It's not the cheapest gun, but it's, I don't know, it's not that expensive when you look at some other Chinese offerings of dubious origin and quality. This is only a little bit more expensive, and yet it's, as I say, traditional German manufacturing, made in Germany, right under here, there. Yeah, you gotta hand it to them. This is a nice gun for the money. Nice gun. There's that term again. The rear sight has 4 options. There are 4 notches here. You pull that out. You can click it round to a wide square notch, a shallow square, or narrow square notch, a V notch, and a U notch. It's on U notch right now. If that's not enough, this little hang tag that comes on the trigger guard here. Let me pull this off. There we go. This is an envelope, and inside should have, and we do. Oh yeah, okay. 4 more inserts for the front sight. So this part unscrews. Yeah, it's a nice solid metal collar, I'll tell you that. My Diana made Winchester pistol has a similar system, but of course even back in the 1970s they were using a plastic screw-in. That's a fairly thick post. Oh, there's an even thicker one. Tapered post. A very fine bead one, I guess, if you like, and then just a round circle. I'm not sure what you use that one for. This would be a bit more useful. You circle the bullseye of your target, and yeah, that takes away the need to worry about 6 o'clock hold and whether the target's large or small. So yeah, put it right in the middle and off you go. Yep, this is a very, very nice gun. So adjustable trigger here. We'll see how that works out as it comes out of the box, but we'll give it a bit of a shakedown first, and then we'll have to give it that service that it probably needs, and then see how it does accuracy wise and everything. Very cool gun. Okay, let's just set up a baseline for this HW30S, and we'll shoot 5 QIS training pellets across it, since they're the good quality pellet that I've been trying out a lot of things with lately, so it gives a good baseline. Okay, so remember to turn off the safety each time. 619. Well, there you go. This gun is supposedly good for around 620 feet per second, so right out of the box, it's pretty much right on the money. 613. No error. No reading there. .616. .611. It's a little lower. And one last one to make up for the .613. So there you go. Shooting right as it was expected to. So there we go. All right, onward and upward. So, a change of plan perhaps. I've had a chance to shoot the gun, mounted a nice scope on it, shot it, it's accurate, it's smooth, it performs really well. Yeah, it's hard not to really like this gun. But my next plan was to, after having tested and chronographed it and broken it a little bit, to strip it down, clean out all the factory grease in there and replace it with stuff that maybe is a bit more suitable for the long haul. At least that was the plan. But plans can get spoiled a little bit. And along came a HW30, which is very, very similar. It's kind of the same gun. This is an older version of it, obviously. It does not have the record trigger. It has a simpler trigger. And it is in need of a replacement spring. The spring in that is kind of shot, wobbly. At first I thought it was broken. It was cocking so poorly, but no, it's actually just really bent and grinding around. So it needs a new spring. Springs are available. They're not cheap. Shipping's expensive. And so I kind of thought, well, why not steal the spring out of this one? Take the brand new spring, or sounds almost brand new spring, put it in this one, and here we have an opportunity to upgrade, see if we can tune the gun a bit more. That is the plan. So here's our tuning kit from Tin Bum Tuning in the UK. Maxi kit for the HW30. Fairly simple and straightforward. Yeah, it's expensive given the exchange rate on the Canadian dollar and shipping. It is a lot of money. This cost pretty much half of the retail price on the rifle. Anyway, never mind that. We're going to have some fun with it and figure out how it all goes in and whether it does do what we hope it will. So that's the plan. So first step, we have to strip this all apart. I put that screw back in there so the little captain nut behind doesn't fall out and get lost. Okay, so here's my basic spring compressor set up. Well, leaving the barrel on for the minute, because apparently that's the easiest way to do this. I'm just going to use an old Webley piston washer as a bit of a spacer to press in the end cap of this HW30S. Trick is not to drop that down too far. There we go. All we need to do is just provide a bit of pressure and tension on this just to loosen this up, because I have to take this screw out right here. And once this is out, the piston and everything should come right back out. The other HW30 is a little bit down. Okay. So the other HW30 is a little bit different in that it's hollow in here. You have to put something up inside it to provide the tension. Bit more preload on this than I expected. a lot more preload than I expected. There we go. That is a substantial amount of preload on this thing. But this is a Canadian spec model, so yeah, it may have a bit more oomph in there. Now this has to come out. There's our spring with its factory orangey yellow grease. We'll get rid of all of that. And there's the piston itself. And I do need to release the barrel from this, otherwise I'm not going to get it out. Took the pin out already. That has to come forward, so I have to undo this. Just too big? Oh, no, it does fit. Wow, that is really, really tight. Don't know if this will do it. Screw's probably backed out all the way now. Wow, that's really stuck on there. But that is a washer that should come off. Yeah, that is really tacky with grease. So I'm going to clean all this off, clean out the inside of here, and clean the spring off completely, and then start to reassemble with the fresh parts. Here I'm using a fine file just to just to check for any burrs or rough edges on the inside of these cuts in the piston tube. All in all, it's fairly well finished, but just help to just round those edges off just a little bit. It helps prevent scuffing the piston seal when you're putting it back in. I thoroughly cleaned all the old grease out of the record trigger unit, and I'm just replacing it with some fresh moly grease just on a few key surfaces here and there. Originally the trigger unit was pretty well lubricated, so it seemed appropriate to put all back. Now the plan here is to spin the piston itself, just to polish off with some emery cloth the front and the rear bearing surfaces of the piston itself. The middle part of the body of the piston is generally slightly narrower diameter than the piston tube, so it doesn't really touch anything. Use a bit of metal polish on it just to give a final buff on it. It may help. And then the last step is to make this scrupulously clean before re-greasing it and installing it back in the rifle. Okay, let's see if we can get it all back together again. Just going to put a little bit of moly lube down inside the piston. And we have to lubricate the outside of the piston. Nice, nicely polished surfaces. Just rub a little bit of moly grease on everything, making sure not to get anything on the front of the piston, as recommended by the tuning people. The side of the piston's not a problem, just not the front. Everything should be nice and smooth in here now. Oh yeah, one more thing to put in there before I stuff it in all the way. And from the tuning kit, there's what they call the slip washer, which is one of these. Yeah, this one here is supposedly the slip washer. So a little bit of lube on there, and that goes right up front inside the piston. And if I understand this correctly, the idea is rotational torque from the spring, which is natural anytime you compress a spring, a coil spring, and unspring it, it's going to want to bend a bit, and it will want to twist. So the idea is putting a slip washer between this surface here and that surface there allows some rotational movement without torquing the gun. That's how I understand it. This goes up inside there. A little bit of lubricant on the inside of the plastic. These are nice, pretty strong pieces. It's interesting comparing the rear spring guide, the one that came supplied with the gun, and this one here. Yeah, it's fairly bit more substantial. So, but the spring is interesting too, because that is a larger, fatter spring by a long shot, and also a lot shorter. So, yeah, we'll see how it works out. Now that's going to go in next, but it needs its top hat first. And then these I'm not putting back on. These are these are power washers. What do you want to call it? Extra, just to compress the spring a little bit more. And I'm not going to put them in. As a matter of fact, not really recommended. They say if you really do want a bit more power, put a fatter steel washer in front there. Adds a bit of weight to the piston. So, not planning on doing that right now, though. Oh, that's wrong. Yeah, this is one of the things about how this kit comes. It's a bit confusing because they don't really explain it. This is part of the rear guide. It comes separately. I couldn't figure out why they don't just put it on there. And it's like, oh, because the box lid wouldn't close because it ends up being just a little bit large diameter. I guess they want to have a nice slim package for the mail. So, yeah, okay. This goes on like so. And then in here. And that should all go into the piston. But we do need lubricant, and they do supply this stuff here. Not sure if it's any different than what I've already got, or a little sachet of it, a little Ziploc baggie. And it's going to be really hard to open this, isn't it? It's going to take 10 minutes. You put a lump of it into your hand. Yuck. Okay, may actually be too much. Okay, and then smear it up and down the spring. Get a good thin coating on it. That might be too thick. Yeah, I think I've overdone it. Okay, just brush that off a bit. There we go. And in it goes. Now I get the rest of this off my hands. Okay, trying to make too much more of a mess. Okay, so this is going in. Perhaps. Maybe. There we go. Okay. Nothing else I need. Nope. Right. Next step is to put the barrel back on, because that is tricky to do when you've got everything loaded up. Yeah. Okay. There's an interesting cross-hatching on the inside of the forks here. That's obviously deliberate. Keeps grease in it. Gives the grease someplace to go. Just a light coating smear inside there. Good idea. Now, I do need these. Okay. Trick is to line everything up, flip it over, and somehow get the other one in there. I can find it. There we go. Yeah, this was really stuck to the side of the breech block. Came off eventually though, but boy, it really was glued on there. Yep, that's in. Now I need to... I didn't put that through there, did I? Nope, I did not. This goes through here. Alright, I need a fresh coating of lubricant on there. drops into the piston. And we can this joint is still pretty stiff. Notice that we have considerably less preload than the original spring setup. I wonder how that'll affect everything. In goes the screw, locking in the rear block, which makes it ready to receive the trigger. Okay, trigger unit, which is cleaned and lubricated. And step number 1, cock the trigger. Number 2, find the safety. Stick it through there without losing your spring. Drop in the trigger block without setting it off. Put in the screws, which should probably go through from this side. I don't know if it really matters. Long one goes in the front, short one in the back. Use a punch to line up the front one. And before we put it together, pull the trigger. Okay. Now, there's a lot of... This needs cleaning. Oh yeah, right. So here it is, all back together with its shiny new upgrade kit installed. Let's see how it performs compared to the original. Okay, so we've lost a bit of velocity, and there's a slightly weird buzz or honk as it fires. A little disappointed, I must say. Yeah, we're definitely not performing as well as the stock setup on the gun, so gonna have to investigate what can be done to maybe resolve this. And so what I did was I got in touch with Tin Bum Tuning in the UK, and Nick got back to me with a couple of suggestions. First off was he suggested I try installing a piston liner. It is in the instructions, it is mentioned. You have to make your own. And he suggested either using high-density polyethylene or steel. So here's a sheet of polyethylene that I cut out of some recycling plastic. Try to figure out just what size it needed to be to curl it up and fit it inside the piston to go in between the spring and the piston wall, because presumably the spring is vibrating against the inside of its piston. So that's less than ideal setup. A lot of guns do come with piston liners. Some of them come that way from the factory. Sometimes you making your own actually does help improve things. Different materials are recommended, but yeah, the thin steel, like from a beer can, is often suggested. In Canada, beer cans are made of aluminum, so. But polyethylene is always, seems like a good idea. It's naturally slippery. You can heat it up with a heat gun and curve it into whatever shape you need. So I was thinking this would work out fairly well. Despite my best efforts at measuring everything carefully from the start, I still haven't had to shave a few pieces off here and there to accommodate the fact that there's a slip washer in there. It has to go in behind that. Yeah, so here's the problem. It doesn't fit. Despite the polyethylene being pretty thin, there still isn't enough room between the spring and the piston wall, so that's not going to work. We need something thinner. So the next plan was to move on to some very thin steel. I cut this from the side of a compressed air can. Seems appropriate. Air gun, air can, sure. So after fitting the steel liner in the piston, put the gun together and was still somewhat disappointed. Velocity came up a little bit to just over 600 feet per second, and there was still some roughness and it just lacked the original smoothness of the gun as I first got it. So I tried a few more things. The gun came apart back and forth again 2 or 3 more times. I won't bore you with all that. I tried using the preload washers. I tried all kinds of things. Tried using more lubricant. That was what Nick recommended. A lot more grease. Still wasn't happy with it. I just don't think it suits this gun as well as it was as I'd hoped. So went back to square one. Put the original stock parts back in. I also found out that the gun store that I got it through, they had old stock they got from another gun store, and that's how they ended up with an 8-year-old HW30S. 625.9. Yeah, that's pretty quick. .4. So that's fairly healthy and right back kind of where we were. So we didn't lose a lot by putting the other spring in there. It's a little bit harsher to cock it and shoot it. I don't know. 631.6. Speeding up a little bit here. So I just feel more comfortable with the original spring back in there. And even though it cost me a fair bit to get that replacement spring, I will still have a use for it because, as I say in Star Wars, there is another. And I forgot to put the camera on for these chronograph shots. .2. Okay, so let's see if I can scroll through those. Oh, one more thing I should do while I've got it here on the bench is just test the trigger pull on it. It is a lovely record trigger. I haven't done any fiddling with it or adjusting on it, so let's see what I can find out about it. Just need to... How do we do this? There we go. 0.66 kilos, which is 1 pound 7.5 ounces. So just less than 2 pound trigger. There we go. So yeah, that's what it feels like. All right. So lovely trigger. I'm not going to play with it anymore. And we'll take it to the range and see how we can set up to shoot it. I'm going to put the scope back on it and see how we do from there. So at the range in fairly frigid conditions, I started by sighting it in with the RWS hobby pellets, and at 10 meters, and it was pretty much putting them straight through the bullseye after a little bit of a scope adjustment. When I moved back to 25 yards, they were printing a bit higher, so I fired this first group and it went well above the bullseye. But we get a 20 millimeter group out of it, so that's definitely less than an inch. Then I tried the H&N Finale Match, another wad cutter pellet, a little bit heavier. This ended up being the best group of the evening at 12 millimeters. So these are definitely a decent pellet for that gun. I did notice that most of my groups are stringing a bit vertically, and I just kind of put that down to a fairly inconsistent hold, because I had to shoot with my winter coat on in the range. So I wasn't getting a consistent, consistent pull on the gun at my shoulder. So yeah, the shots are going up and down a bit. At least that's what I put it down to. I think that guy from Air Guns of Alaska would probably understand. The RWS R10, another fancy wad cutter pellet, 14 millimeter group here. And again, I think I could do a little better if I practiced a bit more with it. This is the Brazilian rifle cutter, their wad cutter pellet. I got, I think, a really impressive group with this pellet in the Vyrock HW55 that I tested earlier. Here, they're not doing quite so well, so maybe not one that's suited to the HW30. Yeah, 22 millimeters, so definitely a lot larger. What surprised me was the JSB Express, which is the 7.87 grain domed Diablo pellet from JSB. Yeah, about an inch group on these ones. Again, vertical stringing. Thought these would do just a little bit better. Although those ones there are pretty close together. If it wasn't for that first shot that went higher, then might have been better. The JSB Diablo 8.44 grain pellets group just only just a little bit tighter. Again, a bit more vertically strung, so I'm gonna have to practice shooting in the winter a little bit more. So what did I learn? Well, out of the box, the Vyrock HW30S may very well have a claim on being the nicest air rifle currently available. If you do want a break barrel Springer, that is, that's not super powerful or super hefty. I also learned that the tuning kits may or may not deliver on their promises. This particular gun doesn't seem to be well suited to it. Maybe it worked better with a 22 caliber variation, or maybe just maybe the newer version of this gun, because as I said, this one is already 7 or 8 years old, and maybe there's been a few small changes made to it, aside from just the cosmetics of the stock. But yep, this is definitely a keeper. This is an excellent air rifle, one you can just shoot all day long and just have a lot of fun with it. So yeah, it's definitely worth the price of admission, I would say. Anyway, thanks for watching. Canicair will return. I have quite a few more projects on the bench that are slowly getting completed. Consider subscribing.